Hi, this is Diana Martin from Yarn Daddy's Crochet, and I'm here with another Learn to Crochet lesson. This would be lesson number 2, and I just want to remind you that these videos, these lessons are for beginning crochet students. I have some in-person crochet students that I work with, and I'm creating these videos and these resources so they could have resources to use when they're practicing at home in between our lessons. But these videos are also really useful for anyone that is beginning their crochet journey. Also, these videos might be useful for people that want to become crochet teachers like I do, or someone who needs who's trying to help their buddy learn how to crochet. Tips for using these videos: for sure, use the timestamps. Skip to the parts that the information that you need. Use the gear icon anytime the video is going too fast for you to slow down the playback. And again, keep working on that YouTube playlist of creators that have stitch patterns or projects that you want to for sure make in the future. There's so many great crocheters out there that have wonderful free content out there for you, just for the taking. So this is lesson 2, and remember that lesson 1 and that particular video, just because it's lesson 1 doesn't mean it's you're supposed to learn all these things in one day. In my view, lesson 1 might take several sessions, but it's up to the individual learner. Everybody's just a little bit different. So what we want to do in our lesson 2 is we want to do some review of the slip knot, chain, and half double crochet swatch, making sure that they've had an opportunity to learn the motion of a half double crochet before we just throw them into crocheting into an actual chain, which we'll talk about. That'll be a big part of today's lesson. Also, we want to make sure that they understand counting stitches and counting rows. Even if they don't have it down completely, that's okay. We just need to keep demonstrating and keep modeling, because it will help them to develop that crocheter's eye. And that takes a long time to really be able to confidently know exactly where the stitches are and where we insert our hooks as we go from row to row. We also want to introduce some gauge concepts, and we'll talk about some label information. It's always fascinating to me when I hang out with some of my buddies at some of the crochet groups that I belong to, and they'll ask me questions about yarn, and I'll say, well, what did the yarn label say? And they will look very surprised that maybe the answer to their question was right there in the yarn label. So the other thing I want to make sure they know how to do is fasten off, and why they need to leave a long tail. And we're going to dive into that crocheting into a chain, and they're going to do some pattern reading, because I've included in this particular lesson a pattern for creating their own half double crochet swatch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate what they need to do, or we're going to read it first, demonstrate it, read it, demonstrate, read it, demonstrate. So they begin to associate abbreviations with particular crochet actions. Okay, so we're going to get started. One thing I want to do with my students is I mentioned gauge, and what I do is I create swatches. I create this particular swatch. I have it labeled. These are Caron 1 pound. These are Bernat Super Value. And if you've ever worked with these two yarns, they're both 4 weight, 100% acrylic yarns, but they're different. Caron 1 pound is a little bit thicker, and it works up larger. And it will even show you that it does based on the information on the yarn label, which I'm going to show you in a second. But I also want to show them that using different hook sizes can change dramatically the size of your work. And even though these particular hooks, these are boy hooks, these are just a 0.5 millimeter larger. I think this is a J. Yeah, this is a J. This is an I. This is a Yes, J is a 6mm hook, this one, sorry. And an I is a 5.5mm hook. So you can see the difference. It's very slight, but it makes a big difference in your crochet, as we will see right here. So this was crocheted with a J hook. And this was crocheted, same yarn, with an I hook. And as you can see, the height of the stitches is very similar, if not the same, but the width of the stitches is definitely different. So we can do the same with the Bernat Super Value. Here's the J. Here's the I. That's quite different, as you can see, but the height is the same. But that's unique to me as a crocheter. Sometimes people will also see quite a bit of change in height. But where you really see the difference is you take the J, Bernat Super Value, crochet with a J hook, and then you take the Bernat Super Value, or the Caron 1 pound, crocheted with a J hook, and you compare those two. And it's pretty dramatic, the difference. So when a pattern calls for a 4-weight acrylic yarn, not all acrylic yarns work up the same way. And how you can tell is not only by swatching, but you can also tell by the yarn labels themselves. And this is a Bernat Super Value label, and this is a Caron 1 pound. Here's Caron 1 pound, here's Bernat. So I told you that the Caron 1 pound works up a little bit bigger. If you look at this diagram right here, this is their gauge diagram. What this means is if you use an H hook and you crocheted a 4-inch by 4-inch square of single crochet, you should have 12 single crochets going across and 13 rows of single crochet. If you're using Bernat and you are using an H hook and you were making a 4-inch by 4-inch swatch, it should crochet 13 single crochets. That's more. It's more, which means this is thicker. And 14 rows. So it's one row higher, another row, plus another stitch in each row. So Bernat works up smaller than Caron 1 pound. And this becomes really important when you start making accessories and apparel. So there's tons of information on these yarn labels. It's really important to know how many yards, because if you have a project and you only purchase, and it takes 1,000 yards and you only purchase one skein, you're not going to have enough yarn. Most good patterns will tell you how many yards of yarn or how many ounces of yarn the pattern takes, so you can buy the correct amount of yarn. Or maybe you've made a project and you didn't use the entire skein of yarn, and you have a partial skein of yarn left. You can actually use this information to estimate how many yards you have left and decide, let's see, do I have enough left over that I could make this other small project? Yarn labels are really important. So spend a little bit of time talking about the information on the yarn label. The other thing I did not mention is dye lots. And oftentimes it will tell you the name of the yarn and the dye lot. Dye lot's important if you're making a blanket and it's all one color and you want it to look all the same color, you need the same dye lot. Some yarns say there is no dye lot, which means that if you bought this yarn at Michael's or at a yarn shop, they should all be the same color. Supposedly, they probably are very, very close. But many yarns have specific dye lots, and they will have numbers, and you need to match the number if you want all the yarn to look the same. Otherwise, you're going to have some slight differences that may or may not bother you, but if you're making everything the same color, it might look dramatically different. So that's just our quick little beginning mini lesson on looking at yarn labels and thinking about gauge in terms of the weight of the yarn and the size of the hook. And I think that's enough for them to know about gauge right now. The other thing I want to make sure that they know how to do at this point is to fasten off, because they've been hopefully trying to work on their swatches, and I want them to be able to fasten off, and so I'll demonstrate that now. I'm going to yarn over, pull my yarn through the last loop, and I'm going to pull it and make a 6 or 7 inch tail. Then I'm going to snip it and pull out the working yarn. I'm going to pull it tight, and if you can see, there's the stitch, but right there at the end is that little fasten off. This is not a stitch. It's just a fasten off. This is a stitch. This is not. But it does make a little bit of a knot there. You want to have a long enough tail, because you're going to be, when you're finished with your project, you're going to be weaving in your ends, which is something that we will learn how to do in another lesson. So you need enough yarn on that to get it into a yarn needle so that you can weave in those ends going in a couple of different directions, so our ends don't pop out, which it happens to the best of us, trust me. See those V's at the top? You see their stitches? Very good. All right, so we're going to set that aside. So our big thing that we're going to be doing next is creating our crocheting into a chain. Let me get these swatches out of the way. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to give myself a tail, because you're going to have to weave in this tail too. So give yourself a tail before you for your slip knot. And I'm going to make a chain of 22 very quickly. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay. So, in our pattern, let's get our pattern out, because we want to follow the pattern. Sorry. Okay. It says chain 22. Okay, we did that. HDC, this is the abbreviation for half double crochet. Half double crochet in third chain from hook. Okay, here's the hook. Remember this loop? This is just a loop. This is not a stitch. So we're not counting that. So the third chain from the hook, or from the loop here, let's count the V's. There's 1, 2, 3. So right in here, that's where we're going to put our first half double crochet. And where you're going to insert your hook is right in this V, right in there. So here I go. I'm going to hold on to it with my, you know how we pinched our slip knot? I'm going to kind of pinch this chain so I know exactly where I should insert my hook. So I'm going to yarn over. I'll hold the yarn over on my hook, and I'm going to insert into that chain. And as I'm inserting, I need to make sure I have 2 loops on top. move that. 2 loops on top. Then I yarn over, pull back through. I'm going to hold these loops down with my middle and thumb. I'm going to yarn over. Okay, I'm ready to pull through. I got 1 stitch. Okay, there's where the next stitch go. I see the V goes. Yarn over. I'm going to hold that yarn over. Insert. I got 2 loops. Yarn over. Pull through. Yarn over. Pull through. Now I have 2. This is why it's really important not to have a tight chain. So I use this to hold this on there so it doesn't flop around or slide around. I slide these down. I'm going to slide them right down with my finger. I'm going to hold my work right here. Pull through. I'm going to do 1 more. Ooh, I split my yarn. There, I got it. Okay, I'm going to finish this row. This is the row 1 of my half double crochet swatch. If you need to use the gear to slow it down, please do so. Need to get my yarn going here. Getting close to the end. I should have 20 half double crochet stitches in row 1. Should have 20. I did it right. Okay, here's my last chain that I'm crocheting into. I just want to show it to you. It can be kind of tricky looking. I'm going to crochet right into there and make sure that I get 2 loops on top. I might even turn that just a little. See, I can turn it just a little. Make sure that I get those 2 loops on there. Okay. Pull this going to mark my first stitch. Oops. So let's see here. This is the chain. Remember, I crocheted into the third chain from the hook. That's the third chain from the hook. This is the first stitch right here, that V. That's not a stitch. That's the turning chain. So here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh dear. I don't have 20. Let me count again. Oh, you know what? I didn't mark the right stitch. I didn't mark the right one. It's right here. That's the first stitch. You see the V? I had the stitch marker way over here. Here's the first stitch right here. See? I need to use stitch markers too. There's the chain 2. First stitch. Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Got it. Wow. I'm really glad I looked at that again. Let's mark the last stitch. And look at our pattern. Row 2. Chain 2. Oh, wait. I didn't even read the rest of this. Okay. Half double crochet in third chain from the hook. Did that. Place the stitch marker in stitch. Did that. Half double crochet in each stitch at the end. Did that. Place stitch marker in last stitch. Turn. 20 half double crochet. I didn't turn yet, but I did count my stitches. Now I'm turning. Let me get some yarn here. That's the wrong. This is the one I need. Sorry. Okay, row 2. I better turn my work. Follow directions. Okay, let me snuggle up my hook. Snuggle up my loop on my hook. Okay, I turned my work. Whew. All right, chain 2 does not count as a stitch. 1, 2. Then it says HDC, half double crochet in first stitch. Well, we know where the first stitch is because we put our stitch marker there. So we're going to half double crochet into the first stitch. Okay, we did that. Place stitch marker, SM, that's the abbreviation for stitch marker, in first stitch. Okay. So I got to move it up to this stitch. I can do that. Do not put it in the chain this time. Put it in the stitch. Remember, this is the turning chain. This is the stitch. Let me put my hook back on. Half double crochet in each stitch. ST is abbreviation for stitch. To the end. Place SM or stitch marker in last stitch. Turn half double crochet. Well, I can do that. I'm going to go all the way down. And if you need to slow it down, you can. Or if you need to, I think you could speed it up too. If you're like, I don't want to see this anymore. I've seen it. Almost there. I should get in the middle. Okay, I'm getting close. Okay. There's the last stitch. I'm just going to double check with my count. Let's see. half double crochet in each stitch at the end. Did that. Place stitch marker in last stitch. So let me do that. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Got it. Okay, so if we look at our pattern, it says row 3, repeat row 2. So I just do the same thing over again. Row 4, repeat row 2. Row 5, repeat row 2. So you do 3 more rows just like you did the last one, then you fasten off. And that is the pattern for the swatch. Okay, so we finished that whole lesson, and I want you guys to remember that you can practice this at home. You can practice fastening off at home. You can make chains, practice fastening off, and decide which one is your best one and bring it to class the next time if you want to. You can practice making chains in different sizes. You can make your own swatch. Give it a try if you want to. If you have questions, remember, write down questions in your notebook and bring it to class. And don't compare yourself to other people. This is your journey. You're going to learn at your pace. You're going to do things your way. So focus on yourself as much as possible. And begin thinking about that first project. Like, are there things that you are really interested in making? Again, if you feel so very frustrated, put the hook down. Try it again later. Try it again another day. Sometimes folks are just so hard on themselves. And, you know, you're learning a brand new skill. And you need to be patient with yourself. And I just want you to know you're probably doing a lot better than you think that you are. You have learned so much in a short period of time. So you need to be gentle with yourself and patient with yourself. Good job, and we'll see you next time.